Hi, how you doing? We're doing pretty good ourselves. We're going to do a little song here called There's Power in the Blood. And you know there is.
Imagine that you discovered all of the answers to life. You would feel pretty important, right? Knowledge is power. You would feel on cloud nine because you knew about the universe and the things that people who studied for decades did not. You would feel like one of the most powerful people on the planet. Now imagine that someone began to make you question what you claim to know and brought up some very tough questions that could shatter your beliefs. Suddenly, your claim to power is suddenly threatened, and you panic. Now imagine that you hadn't discovered this knowledge on your own, but it had been told to you by someone you trust, and you didn't know the reasons why the answers were the way they were. You had just taken it on blind faith. When someone questions you about it, you really have no idea how to respond, so as a way to ensure your power is not removed, you claim that the person who told you knows, and since that person is no longer around, that person cannot be questioned. You really don't have all of life's answers, or else you would understand why they were answers to life's problems. This is the Christian mindset, and why many of them resist any effort to change their knowledge. Assumed knowledge makes them feel smarter and more powerful than those atheist scientists who studied and dedicated their lives for decades. Power is probably the most dangerous and addictive drug that exists. The reason it is so dangerous is because many others are affected by the power one has. The addictive part basically comes from an acceptance overdose. Look at Bill Clinton and Dick Cheney. Both men were pretty much the most powerful men in America for the past 16 years. When Hillary lost the election, she bowed out gracefully and did what was needed to help the Democratic Party win. Bill, on the other hand, acted more like Kanye West at the VMAs and was not happy and very vocal about it. Bill really wanted the feeling of power again. Now that Obama is in power, Dick Cheney is fuming and saying tons of crazy things he never would have said as president. Vice president. Not supposed to say that out loud. Astronauts have the same problems, as they have conquered the very limit of the human frontier and understanding, only to be dragged back to Earth and forced to retire when they get too old. Buzz Aldrin himself battled depression and alcoholism because of this. Seriously, what rush could top being one of the first people to land on the fucking moon? After that, the rest of life seems downhill from there. The Founding Fathers understood this principle when writing the Constitution, or at least implied from observance, which is why they made sure to limit the power the government has, as it seems to be the tendency to attract people who crave power and will do and say anything for it. Just like any drug, the rush gets less and less each time they get a hit. The Republicans did this, and in 2008 they reached the point where they were so resistant to any change and so jonesing for a hit of more power, they were delirious as to what the American people wanted and got removed. The power that Christians gain from their knowledge of the meaning of life is immense. They don't fear death, which is pretty powerful. They believe that speaking in tongues, alleged miracles, and prayers are real, and if they were actually real, that would be a really desired power to have. They also can judge others unquestioningly for their thoughts and actions, which is very empowering. And if someone doesn't agree with them, they get the satisfaction of knowing that person will burn for eternity. Schadenfreude can be pretty self-satisfying. Not only that, if they can get in control of the laws, they can make everyone act according to their understanding of the universe that someone else told them that can't be questioned. Now, mind you, there are some Christians out there that do not see their knowledge as power and treat it with humility. However, humble people tend to be much less outgoing, and they don't make very good salespersons. Then there are some who treat this knowledge as a burden, like myself later in my Christianity, because if I questioned or rejected the power I was given, then I myself would be sent to hell. That's why it took at least 3 to 4 years of deep analysis and study before I gave up my beliefs. You do not flippantly turn away from a belief when your eternal soul is at stake, or that much power is on the line. The clergy, like politicians, became addicted to the power they have over people, and have done brutal things such as the Inquisition, the Crusades, and cover-ups of child molestation to prevent a loss of power and status. When people point to atheists like Pol Pot and Stalin, as it was the atheism that made them cause all the suffering they created, it was not the atheism, it was the dogma and fear to the point of paranoia of losing power that drove their terrible deeds. Atheism gives no one power. When we, at least as skeptics, are shown that part of our knowledge is wrong, we change it. We fully admit we don't know answers to all of life's problems, and then go back to studying to find a solution instead of denying there are problems, like Christians, because if they did, their power would send them emotionally crashing. Power is the most dangerous and addicting drug out there. And now I have made you and my other 180 subscribers listen to me. I feel overwhelmed with power. Go, subscribe now and convert others to my channel. I must have even more power!